You know that feeling when you trust someone completely, and then everything changes in a single moment? That was me, standing outside a conference room last spring, watching my best friend present my work as her own. My name is Jessica Rodriguez, and I'm a marketing strategist at an advertising agency here in the city. At least, I was just a regular strategist. I'd been working toward this promotion for months. Basically, my entire career had been building to this moment. Nicole Thompson and I had been best friends for about 3 years. We started at the agency on the same day, sat at desks right next to each other, grabbed lunch together almost daily. We'd even taken a vacation together down in Mexico the year before. I trusted her completely. Looking back now, that was my first mistake. The agency announced this huge opportunity. A major hotel chain wanted a complete rebrand and digital marketing strategy. The winner would lead an entire new department with a promotion worth around $35,000 more per year, plus remote work flexibility and creative control. It was everything I'd been working toward. I spent almost a month on that proposal. Late nights, weekends, countless hours of research. I analyzed the hotel chain's history, studied their competitors, created mood boards, designed mock social media campaigns, developed an influencer partnership strategy, calculated return on investment projections. It was the best work I'd ever done. Here's the thing, Nicole and I always helped each other. We'd share ideas, give feedback, brainstorm together. So when I told her about my proposal and showed her my work in progress, it felt completely natural. She seemed excited for me, kept saying things like, "This is amazing, Jess, and you're definitely getting this promotion." I finished the proposal on a Friday evening, uploaded it to our shared team drive, sent an email to the managers. Then I drove up to Tampa for my cousin's birthday party that weekend. I felt good, confident, ready to pitch on Monday morning. Monday morning, I got to the office around 7. The presentation was scheduled for 9. I grabbed coffee, reviewed my notes one more time, and waited for them to call me in. Then my boss stuck her head out of the conference room. "Jessica, we're ready for you." I walked in with my laptop, ready to connect it to the projector. Nicole was already standing at the front of the room. My stomach dropped. She was presenting. My slides were on the screen behind her. My research, my strategy, my creative concepts. Even the font choices were identical. The only difference? Nicole's name was on every single slide. I stood there frozen while she talked about her insight into luxury hospitality marketing, her influencer strategy, her ROI projections. Word for word, it was my work. Not similar. Not inspired by. Identical. The executives were nodding, taking notes, clearly impressed. One of them said, "Nicole, this is exceptional work. Really impressive analysis." That's when something cold settled in my chest. Not panic, clarity. I raised my hand. "Excuse me, but that's actually my proposal. Nicole's presenting my work." The room went completely silent. Nicole's face flushed red, but she recovered fast. Too fast. Like she'd been ready for this. "Jessica, come on. We worked on this together. You know we always collaborate. This was a team effort." She made it sound like I was being petty. Like I was trying to steal credit from a collaborative project. The agency director looked uncomfortable. "Let's take a break and review the documentation." I had emails. Timestamps on every file. Research documents with my name all over them. But here was the problem. Because I'd shared my work in progress with Nicole for feedback, the situation looked murky. The agency's policy on collaborative work was deliberately vague. The director suggested we both move forward as co-presenters. Share the credit. Nicole agreed immediately, playing the role of the gracious friend. I refused. This wasn't collaboration, it was theft. Over the next 2 weeks, they investigated. Meanwhile, Nicole played the victim perfectly. She went around the office saying things like, "I can't believe Jessica doesn't trust me, and I thought we were friends." Suddenly, people were treating me like the problem. Like I was being difficult, ungrateful, paranoid. Then they made their decision. The promotion went to Nicole. The agency director called me into his office. "We've decided to avoid the drama by giving the position to the person who presented the proposal." We're offering you a $3,000 bonus to acknowledge your contribution. $3,000. For work worth $35,000 annually. Nicole got my promotion. My department. My creative control. Everything I'd earned. And I was supposed to smile and accept it. That's when I decided they'd all made a very big mistake. The shock wore off pretty quickly. Maybe because the anger was so much stronger. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I went home that night, made coffee, and started planning. First rule of revenge: documentation beats emotion every single time. I already had evidence. Every email, every file, every timestamp proving the work was mine. But I needed more. I needed to show not just that Nicole stole my work, but that the company knew it and chose to ignore it. I spent that entire evening organizing everything into a timeline. Screenshots of my original files with dates visible. The email I'd sent Friday evening with the final proposal attached. My research notes from weeks earlier. The whole paper trail. Then I went deeper. I pulled up Nicole's work history from the past 3 years. Every project she'd supposedly led. Turns out when you actually look at the file creation data, Nicole hadn't originated a single creative concept since she'd started at the agency. Every successful campaign she'd presented had been developed by someone else first. She'd just gotten really good at attaching her name to other people's work. About a dozen of our colleagues had been victims of her collaborative process. Small things mostly, an idea here, a strategy there. Nothing big enough to fight over. Until now. I documented all of it. Created a comprehensive file showing a 3-year pattern of intellectual theft. Next, I needed an ally. Someone who understood both the creative work and the business implications. I called my friend Marcus, who worked as a consultant for marketing firms. He'd helped several clients navigate intellectual property disputes. I sent him everything. His response came back in about an hour. This is ironclad. You've got her completely documented. But more importantly, that hotel chain is going to be pissed when they find out the strategy they paid for was stolen. That's when the plan started forming. See, here's what the agency didn't consider. The hotel chain had hired us based on the strength of that proposal. They'd signed a contract worth over $300,000 for the full campaign. If they found out the person leading their project had stolen the entire strategy, they'd have grounds to cancel the contract. And Nicole? She had no original ideas. Once she actually had to deliver on her proposal, she'd be exposed. I just needed to speed up that process. I reached out to the hotel chain's marketing director through LinkedIn. Professional message, nothing dramatic. Just mentioned I'd done extensive research on their brand and would love to discuss some technical details about the campaign strategy. She responded within a day, suggesting a call later that week. Meanwhile, I started talking to a lawyer. Not for a lawsuit necessarily, just to understand my options. Employment law, intellectual property protection, hostile work environment documentation. Turned out the agency's decision to promote Nicole despite clear evidence of theft could be considered retaliation, since I'd officially reported the issue. My lawyer sent a very professional letter to the agency. Nothing threatening. Just a formal notification that I was documenting the situation and retaining counsel regarding potential intellectual property violations and workplace retaliation. The agency's general counsel called me the next day. Suddenly, they wanted to revisit the situation. Too late. I also did something else. I started a detailed blog post about protecting creative work in advertising. Completely factual, written like a case study. I didn't name Nicole or the agency directly, but I used my proposal as the example, showed the original work, explained how it was presented by someone else, demonstrated the documentation process. I saved it as a draft. My insurance policy. Finally, I prepared for the hotel chain call. I wasn't going to trash Nicole or the agency. I was simply going to have a technical conversation about the campaign strategy as the person who'd actually developed it. Everything was set. Nicole had no idea what was coming. She'd gotten comfortable in her new position, already talking about the department she'd be building, the team she'd hire. She'd even posted on social media about her exciting new role. The agency thought they'd handled an uncomfortable situation by throwing money at me and moving on. The hotel chain believed they'd hired a talented strategist to lead their rebrand. Everyone was wrong. And in about 72 hours, they were all going to know it. The call with the hotel chain's marketing director was scheduled for Thursday afternoon. I had 3 days to prepare. Wednesday morning, my lawyer sent a second letter to the agency. This one was more specific, formal notice that I was considering legal action for intellectual property theft, workplace retaliation, and breach of good faith. We cited specific company policies they'd violated. The agency director called me within an hour. Wanted to discuss options. I told him my lawyer would be in touch. I wasn't actually planning to sue. Lawsuits take forever, cost money, and usually end in disappointing settlements where everyone signs NDAs and nothing really changes. I wanted something better. I wanted Nicole exposed, the agency embarrassed, and my work properly recognized. Wednesday afternoon, I had coffee with one of the executives from a competing agency. We connected at an industry event a few months back. I mentioned casually that I might be looking for new opportunities and that I had a pretty impressive hospitality marketing portfolio to show. He was interested. Very interested. Especially when I mentioned the hotel chain campaign. Wait, he said. Your agency just announced that project. Nicole Thompson is leading it, right? Actually, I said, that's an interesting story. I didn't trash anyone. Just stated facts. Showed him the timeline. The evidence. Let him draw his own conclusions. He leaned back in his chair. The hotel chain knows the real developer was you. They will after tomorrow. He smiled. When this blows up, and it will blow up, call me. We'd love to have someone with your talent and integrity. I'd just secured my backup plan. Thursday morning, the agency's general counsel called again. They were willing to offer an enhanced settlement, around $15,000, plus a neutral reference letter. I'll consider it, I said. Then hung up. The call with the hotel marketing director was scheduled for 2 p.m. At 1:30, I reviewed my materials one more time. Original research files. Strategy documentation. All the technical details that only the actual developer would know. I wasn't going to explicitly say Nicole stole my work. I was just going to have a detailed technical conversation that would make it very, very clear I'd developed the entire strategy. 2 p.m. exactly, my phone rang. Hi, Jessica. Thanks so much for reaching out, the marketing director said. I wanted to clarify some details about the influencer strategy you proposed. Of course, I said. I spent about 2 weeks just on the influencer selection criteria. You personally selected the influencer targets? Yes, I researched about 40 different influencers before narrowing down to the final 12 recommendations. Want me to walk you through the selection methodology? Please. I spent 20 minutes explaining the detailed research process, the specific metrics I'd used, the reasoning behind each choice. Technical details that only the person who'd actually done the work would know. Halfway through, she interrupted. Wait, Nicole presented this proposal. Are you saying you developed it? I developed the entire strategy, I said calmly. The research, the analysis, the creative concepts. Everything. Silence on the line. Nicole presented my work as her own. The agency investigated and decided to give her the promotion anyway. I'm documenting everything with my attorney now. More silence. I'm calling you, I continued, because I wanted to make sure you understand the actual strategic foundation of the campaign. As the person who developed it, I can provide technical guidance that might not otherwise be available. I need to call you back, she said. Her voice had gone cold. She hung up. I sat back and waited. 20 minutes later, my phone rang again. Different number. Ms. Rodriguez? This is James Mitchell, General Counsel for Peak Hospitality Group, the hotel chain's lawyer. Hello, I said. We'd like to schedule a call with you, our marketing director, and your agency tomorrow morning. 9 a.m. Will you be available? Of course. Please bring all documentation regarding the campaign proposal development. Everything. I have it ready. Good. See you tomorrow. I called my lawyer. Told him about the meeting. They're pissed, he said. Rightfully so. They paid over $300,000 for a campaign strategy that was stolen from the person who actually developed it. Be ready for this to get messy. I smiled. That's exactly what I'm hoping for. That evening, I finalized my blog post about protecting creative work. Added a few more technical details. scheduled it to auto-publish Monday morning after the weekend news cycle would carry the story. Everything was ready. Nicole had no idea the call had happened. The agency didn't know the hotel chain was involved. Friday morning's meeting was going to be spectacular. Friday morning, 9 a.m. sharp. Conference call. On the line, me, my lawyer, the agency director, the agency's general counsel, Nicole, the hotel chain's marketing director, and the hotel chain's attorney. Nicole had been pulled into this meeting about 30 minutes earlier. She looked confused when I walked past her office. Good. The agency director started. Thank you everyone for joining. We understand there are some questions about. The hotel chain's attorney cut him off. Let's be direct. We paid your agency over $300,000 for a marketing campaign strategy. We were told Nicole Thompson developed that strategy. We have since learned this may not be accurate. We want to know exactly who created the intellectual property we purchased. Silence. The agency director cleared his throat. The project was a collaborative effort between several team members. That's not what we were told, the marketing director said. Her voice was ice. Nicole's presentation specifically claimed she personally developed the strategy. We hired your agency based on her expertise. I spoke up. I can clarify the timeline. Please, the hotel attorney said. I pulled up my documentation. Shared my screen. I began research on peak hospitality on March 15th. Here are the original research files with timestamps and metadata. I developed the competitive analysis, the influencer strategy, and the creative concepts over the following 3 weeks. I shared my work in progress with Nicole for feedback, as we often collaborated. On April 10th, I uploaded the final proposal to the shared team drive and emailed the management team. That weekend, I was in Tampa for a family event. Monday morning, April 13th, Nicole presented my complete proposal, unchanged except for her name on the slides. I showed the emails, the file timestamps, the original documents with my name. Nicole tried to interrupt. We always work together. Did you contribute any original research? I asked calmly. We discussed strategies. Did you write any of the analysis? Create any of the creative concepts? Develop any of the influencer criteria? She went quiet. Because I have all my original files. Research notes. Draft versions. Everything. What do you have? Nothing but silence. The hotel marketing director spoke next. Nicole, when we met last week to discuss campaign implementation, you couldn't answer basic questions about the influencer selection methodology. You said you'd review your notes and get back to me. Now I understand why. Nicole's face went pale. You told us you'd spent months developing the strategy, the marketing director continued. You specifically highlighted your deep expertise in luxury hospitality marketing. Was any of that true? I was part of the development process. You presented someone else's work as your own, the hotel attorney said flatly. That's intellectual property fraud. Which means our contract with your agency was entered into under false pretenses. The agency's general counsel jumped in. Let's not rush to conclusions. Internal attribution issues don't necessarily affect the validity of the contract. Our contract specifically states that the strategy will be led by the person who developed it, the hotel attorney interrupted. We hired Nicole Thompson based on expertise she doesn't possess. That's material misrepresentation. The agency director was sweating. We can reassign Jessica to lead the project. She's fully qualified. She's more than qualified, the marketing director said. She actually created the damn strategy. But right now, we're evaluating whether we want to continue working with an agency that promotes employees who steal their colleagues' work. Beautiful. Perfect. Nicole tried again. This is all a misunderstanding. Jessica and I worked closely together. I cut her off. Nicole, you didn't write a single word of that proposal. You didn't conduct any of the research. You didn't create any of the creative concepts. You copied my files, changed the name, and presented them as your own. That's not collaboration. That's theft. I think Jessica is being vindictive because she didn't get the promotion. The promotion you received by stealing my work, I said calmly. You got a $35,000 raise for presenting my 3 weeks of research as your own. You're leading a department based on expertise you don't have. And you're about to lose it all. Her hands started shaking. The hotel attorney spoke again. Here's what's going to happen. We're suspending all work on this campaign effective immediately. We're reviewing our options regarding the contract. And we expect a full written explanation from your agency about how this theft occurred and why Nicole Thompson was promoted despite apparent evidence of intellectual property violation. The agency director looked like he might throw up. Over $300,000 in revenue, potentially gone. Plus whatever legal liability they'd just created. We can resolve this, he said desperately. Jessica will lead the project. Nicole will be reassigned. We'll issue a formal apology. You investigated this 2 weeks ago, I said. You had all the evidence. You chose to give Nicole the promotion anyway and offered me $3,000 to keep quiet. You only care now because the client found out. The agency's general counsel shot me a warning look. Too late. The hotel marketing director laughed bitterly. You knew about this and promoted her anyway? That's spectacular. It was a complex situation. The agency director tried. It's very simple, I said. Nicole stole my work. I reported it. You chose to protect her and punish me. The only reason we're having this conversation is because your client now knows the truth. The meeting ended about 10 minutes later. The hotel chain wanted everything in writing. The agency was scrambling to contain the damage. Nicole sat frozen at her desk. I felt incredible. As I was leaving the conference room, the agency director pulled me aside. We need to discuss your future here. My future? I smiled. I think we both know I'm not staying. I already have 3 job offers from your competitors. One of them is offering around $90,000 plus signing bonus. His face went gray. But here's what you're going to do, I continued. You're going to give me the promotion you gave Nicole. Same title, same raise, same department leadership. And I'm going to lead this hotel campaign as a contractor, not an employee, at $150 per hour. The client specifically requested me. We can't just. Or I publish my blog post about this entire situation on Monday morning. It's already written. Names changed, of course, but anyone in the industry will know exactly which agency I'm describing. How do you think that will affect your reputation? Silence. So? I asked. I'll need to discuss this with our leadership team. You have until end of business today, I said. The hotel chain wants their answer Monday. I'm sure they'd be very interested in knowing whether I'm available to continue as lead strategist or if they should find a different agency entirely. I walked away. By 4 p.m., I had an email. The promotion was mine. Nicole was being reassigned to a different department, which everyone knew meant she'd be pushed out within weeks. And I'd be leading the hotel campaign as an independent contractor while transitioning out of the agency. The look on Nicole's face when she cleaned out her office later that day? Worth every moment of planning. She tried to talk to me once. Jessica, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I was desperate for the promotion. You had 3 years to develop your own skills, I said. Instead, you stole everyone else's work. That's not desperation. That's who you are. She left without another word. That was about 6 months ago now. The immediate aftermath was pretty satisfying. Nicole resigned from the agency within 2 weeks. Turns out when you're known as the person who stole a major client's campaign, nobody wants to work with you. She tried applying to other agencies in the area. But our industry is surprisingly small and word spreads fast. Especially after I anonymously sent my detailed blog post to several industry publications. They ran variations of the story. Advertising agency faces ethics questions after promotion based on stolen work. Nothing legally actionable, just facts. Nicole's LinkedIn still says she's seeking new opportunities. Last I heard, she'd moved into some entry-level sales job. Turns out when you build a career on other people's work, you don't actually have any skills of your own. The hotel campaign ended up being incredibly successful. I led the entire rebrand as an independent consultant. The campaign exceeded every performance target we'd set. The client was thrilled. That campaign became the centerpiece of my portfolio. Within a few months, I had offers from 3 different agencies, plus interest from several major brands wanting direct consulting. I ended up taking a position at a competing agency as a senior strategist, basically the same role Nicole got, but with about $15,000 more in base salary. Plus, I kept my consulting work on the side, which brings in an extra $40,000 to $50,000 annually. So instead of the $35,000 raise Nicole stole from me, I ended up with closer to a $60,000 increase in total compensation. Plus complete creative control and a reputation in the industry as someone who produces exceptional work and stands up for themselves. My old agency? They lost the hotel client after the initial campaign. Turns out clients don't love working with companies that promote intellectual property thieves. They've had a rough year. Several other clients left. Their reputation took a serious hit. The agency director who chose to give Nicole my promotion? He quietly left about 4 months later, pursuing other opportunities, according to the press release. Really, he was forced out after the board reviewed how badly he'd mishandled the situation. As for Nicole, I saw her at an industry event about 3 months ago. She didn't approach me, just looked uncomfortable and left early. I heard through a mutual connection that she'd tried to explain the situation as a misunderstanding, but nobody was buying it. Hard to claim misunderstanding when there's documented evidence and multiple articles about your intellectual property theft. These days, I'm doing exactly what I wanted. Leading major campaigns, building a strong professional reputation, working with incredible clients. I even started mentoring younger marketers, especially women, teaching them how to document their work, protect their ideas, and stand up when someone tries to take credit. I gave a talk at a marketing conference last month about professional ethics and intellectual property protection. Used my experience as a case study. The room was packed. Afterward, at least a dozen people told me similar stories of colleagues stealing their work. One woman asked me, "Do you regret how you handled it?" Some people say you could have been more diplomatic. I thought about it for maybe 2 seconds. Not even a little bit, I said. Nicole didn't just steal my promotion. She stole months of my work, lied to my face, and then tried to gaslight me when I called her out. The agency chose to reward her anyway. They all got exactly what they deserved. The woman smiled. Good for you. Yeah, good for me. Here's what I learned. Trust your instincts, document everything, and never let anyone take credit for your work. Stand up for yourself, even when it's uncomfortable. Especially when it's uncomfortable. Some people call it ruthless. I call it justice. And somewhere out there, Nicole's probably still trying to figure out how to develop an original idea. Good luck with that.